How do we start?
Hey,
That's going to be how we start. It's going to be that. I'm going to start on how do we start, Dylan. So this is the first episode, the inaugural episode of Shouting Over Static, the video game show and tell project. I am your host, Mark. I'm here with Dylan. Say hi, Dylan.
Hello.
I'm here with Jack.
How's it going?
And I'm here with Tom.
hey, nice to be here.
Hey, there we go. There's all four of us.
Yep.
It's a bit like the video game show on URN, but not. So the premise of this, as we sort of gave away, is it's going to be like a show and tell. So each week, one of us is going to come in with some game that they want to talk about, and it's going to be a surprise to the rest of us, and they're going to reveal the game, and then we're going to try and craft some sort of conversation about it. It doesn't have to be a modern game, a recent game, an old game, a new game, a good game, a bad game. It just has to be something that they think is worth talking about.
Yeah.
Anybody? Yeah. Does that sound like anybody got anything to throw in on that? Oh, that sounds about right to me.
And it has to be a video game.
Probably. Yeah.
Oh man, I was gonna go for exclusively like just make your own adventure book.
I totally expected Dylan to bring in Fiasco.
Fiasco is pretty good. Maybe that could be
My
a very
first one was
special
actually
episode.
Fiasco would be a good episode. I was gonna go for tag.
Ooh, stuck in the mud.
Oh man, what
Right.
a game!
We've already gone off topic, but that's fine. I feel like we can be garrulous here. That's fine. So we, through a totally random and perfectly reasonable system of choosing, picked Jack to be.
Yes.
But we all separately picked Jack using a random.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was strange actually.
I feel like this is destined, really.
I feel like there's a lot of pressure now on me to actually like bring some good conversation to the table.
There is. If you don't, I have to beat you up.
That is how it works.
Yeah, you get beaten up. It's what happens. Violence becomes you. Yeah.
Podcast
So
law.
law of the jungle. So on today, the first week's week number 1, episode number 1 of Shouting Over Static, the video game show and tell project. Jack, what have you brought to the boys to discuss?
So it's a game that was released last year in May. It's not the one that you're thinking of. It's Battleborn. Battleborn, obviously developed by Gearbox, released a few weeks before Overwatch, and yeah, I just wanted to talk about its shortcomings and why it didn't perform well. I went out and bought a game. As you guys know, I'm a massive Gearbox Software fan, obviously Borderlands and whatever. But it's sort of died off. But it was announced in June earlier this year that it went to free to play, and now Gearbox have come out and said that they're not going to be working on it anymore. They're not developing any more content that can be added into it. So it just sort of shows that stuff with the same concept of Overwatch and games like that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be a good project. I think they took far too long to turn it into a free-to-play game. I feel like, the price when it got released was like 25 quid, 20 quid. I think I got my copy for 20 quid and instantly stopped playing it after about a week because it just sort of didn't, really fulfill what I expected from a company like Gearbox, and of course 2K developed it as well. So, they've worked together before. They obviously worked together on the Borderlands games, and I feel that if they would have maybe went with like a sort of Borderlands style of MOBA, where they had like the same sort of story from Borderlands transferring into a massively online battle game, then that would have been cool and it would have been potentially better. But I feel like Battleborn perhaps would have been a lot better suited to just being a free-to-play game from the start, because we've seen a lot of MOBAs nowadays that are doing it. You've got Gigantic, you've got that Paladins as well that was released. They're all free-to-play games, and they are.
Paladins was the one that was literally just Overwatch, but free.
It
right?
was a couple of Overwatch developers moved over and started developing on that, and they basically had all the inside knowledge from Overwatch and basically just transferred Overwatch to a free-to-play game. Well, yeah,
Brilliant.
But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of other MOBAs out there that were free-to-play, and although they are strictly free-to-play, they obviously offer in-game purchases and whatever and microtransactions. So Battleborn has switched to that, and Gearbox have said that they're slowly putting it on life support, so to speak, and they're just moving away from it. Obviously, we've been teased about Borderlands 3 for God knows how long now, so they're that their main focus now is going to be working on that. And I just wanted to, just have your thoughts on what you think was Battleborn's downfall. Was it just the fact that Overwatch got released at the same time and it had more hype, or was there perhaps a deeper meaning as to why it didn't perhaps succeed as they had expected it to?
Well, I think they were just unlucky, right? So, like...
Yeah, I mean, they got totally fucking shafted by Blizzard.
Yeah.
there was
Overwatch.
all that talk about...
Quite viciously as well, I think.
Yeah.
Like, Blizzard went out of their way to, like, every time... It was like Battleborn would announce their, like, a free beta weekend, and then the next day Blizzard would be like, hey, you can play Overwatch that weekend too, what's up? And just totally shot them out the water.
Mm.
But, I mean, if you're competing with Blizzard on that kind of thing, you're going to struggle, because they've just got... They're incredible at creating those sort of things and the, like, unique characters and just charm that you get.
And they've got infinite money as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, like... I don't think anybody really ever had a competition with them, because I've not got it or anything, but I've played it a few times, and it's really, really fun.
Well, Battleborn.
No, Overwatch.
Oh yeah, Overwatch is great.
So it's
Yeah,
just, like,
Overwatch
it's hard
is wicked.
to compete with, and Battleborn I've seen bits of, I've never played, because, after a week people were just like, it's shit, don't play it.
Yeah.
But it just looks like it doesn't have anywhere near the same level of charm. I've seen the characters and I still can't remember what they are.
So you know what? This is one for you actually, Jack, because you like the Borderlands games,
Yeah.
and you like Gearbox. What did you think of the writing in Battleborn? Because all of the stuff I saw coming out from like the pre-release and sort of the post-release window for Battleborn, and all of their characters and the way they characterized them and wrote them, just seemed to be like an even further continuation of that like lame pseudo hardcore leet speak stuff they were pushing so hard into for Borderlands that
Yeah,
I
I
found
think-
so off-putting.
I think it was some of that, but I also think that perhaps, there was a lot of mistimed banter, as you can call it. They were trying so hard, and it also sort of, I wouldn't say it backfired, but it was just like the timing of it wasn't that great, and yeah, from what I can remember, like I say, I haven't played it in, over a year now. I haven't really touched the game. I've got it just sat in its case on my side now, so... that goes to show just how, hooked people got onto it. I mean, in its first week, before Overwatch got released, in its first week of sales, it was up there, and I think in its first week it was the number one UK sale. So, it was doing good, and then slowly people started to notice, when Overwatch came out, everyone was like, well, this is just what they said it was going to be, but it's so much better than Battleborn, so why not just stick with this? And we've seen what Overwatch has gone on to do in the Game Awards, and it's smashing records still, and people still are playing it a year later. But yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I think if they would,
Because that's also the thing as well, isn't it? Because they are slightly different games, because Overwatch is like a team competitive first-person shooter, whereas Battleborn is very much a first-person MOBA, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's got lanes and like you push the tower and there's creeps and stuff, and like you level up in match and weird stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think I think I've said this to you a couple of times, but like you could play it as a single player. Like you could play a single player game and you could just level up your character in your own time and not have to worry about going online. And they had campaign missions as well, and if you would hop into a campaign mission as a single player, it would put you into like an online lobby, even though you're playing as a single player. It would hop you into an online lobby, and if you lost internet connection, it would jump you out of that. And it would just seem weird to put you as a single player into an online lobby which relies on internet connection, when normally if you're playing a single player, you don't have to worry about stuff like that. So I don't know.
Man, this sounds like Destiny.
weird.
I might have to get it.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's exactly the same, isn't it?
It's just a bit weird.
I guess that's the kind of... So in sort of today's gaming environment, lots of this stuff we do is... So like Destiny, in a similar way,
Yeah.
everything is done online, and it's just... It's all like saved automatically, all that nonsense, and because you're working with other people, it's just kind of nice. But I think they've gotten to that point before everyone's internet has gotten to that point. So like, there are obviously certain areas, like if you live in a big city, you're probably going to be fine. If you live in like California, you'll probably be fine. But for the majority of America, you always hear about how the internet's really shit. So
Yeah.
there's no way those things are really going to work that well yet. But I think it is the way it's going to go, because just, you can't really live without the internet in at least the UK anymore. Obviously, in other areas of the world you can, but
And we got like also because we can sit around and complain about like BT giving us 15 megabits a second or whatever in the UK, but that's good for a lot of places in the US.
yeah,
Like our internet infrastructure is really legit.
it's still no South Korea though, is it?
No,
Yeah, like
I
a
suppose
gigabyte.
not.
Or something ridiculous.
Oh, I wish I could have gigabit internet.
Isn't that what like Google Fiber are doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so America, like certain areas of America are the same, but then certain areas are completely fucked.
yeah. It's like San Francisco, parts of New York, and like Kansas or something. Because Google was like, yeah, let's just try out Google Fiber somewhere weird. Or maybe it's like somewhere in Kansas or like Minnesota or something. One of those weird ones in the middle. They've just gone, yeah, have some Google Fiber.
Mm.
Yeah, it's strange how they. But I mean, it's good to check. Also, I think it's lots of places that they try and do it, and then all the internet companies just give them a fucking hard time until they don't.
They get bullied out.
Yeah. Well, they keep like AT&T and stuff keep trying to sue them, right? Because
Because their internet's too
competition
good.
isn't fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, we've gone really off topic.
That's fine. No, I think we're on topic because we're discussing why Battleborn was such a fucking joke.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that unfair? Like, is it everything I saw about it, from the game itself to the gameplay to shit like the fact that it was always online, all the way through to a couple of months afterwards where no one was talking about it, and Randy Pitchford came out on Twitter saying, "Hey guys, look, they've made a porn subreddit for my game as well." And everyone, and then everyone saw that, thought it was pathetic, and filled r/battle arses or whatever it was with all the porn from the Overwatch porn subreddit.
Oh no
So
way.
like it's the entire game just seemed to me to be an unmitigated disaster from start to finish. Or is
Yeah.
that unfair?
I don't know. I feel
they-
like it was certainly like, they spent a lot of time working on it because, everyone at the end of Borderlands 2 immediately assumed that they were going to be working on Borderlands 3. But, when it got announced and they were like, oh, Battleborn, I feel like carrying that tag of being, what successful games the first couple of games that they worked on were, I feel like everyone was sort of like, oh yeah, this is going to be the sort of similar art style. It's going to be so awesome. They're going to be bringing Battleborn to like or they're going to be bringing Borderlands to a MOBA style sort of game, and it just didn't live up to people's expectations of what it was. And I feel like,
Do you think
yeah,
there was a level of hubris from the developer then, thinking, hey, we made Borderlands, we can do anything. We can take on Blizzard. We can make a sick new MOBA and it'll do well.
Remember also, between Borderlands and Battleborn, they put out Duke Nukem Forever and Aliens Colonial Marines. Two
Yeah.
games they didn't completely develop, but still put out, and were both still total shit.
But like, they probably didn't know about Overwatch when they were making Battleborn, right? Because
definitely
they came
not.
out at the same time. So it probably wasn't a we'll take on Blizzard. It was more just like, people love League of Legends and Dota. Let's make a version in our own way.
Yeah.
Because it's still different enough from those to be a new thing. But, Blizzard had the same idea.
Do you think, in a post-Destiny world, Borderlands 3 has the ability to be the best game ever made?
I don't know. I hope it is. I hope it's certainly good. We've been teased about it for so long. They're developing it in Unreal 4 engine, and they're trying to make it look as stunning and they're trying to make it look as stunning as they can, whilst also still keeping that simplistic art style that everyone's come to love, that Borderlands really represents. But I feel like it certainly has potential to be up there and competing with Destiny. But again, it's Battle.net versus Borderlands. It's going to be like, Battle.net
This is
and
true.
Blizzard just have so much money that they can just throw into Destiny to help them move it further on. And I feel like Borderlands might get shunned aside a bit, but I feel like, yeah, it's certainly something that I hope does well. And, I'm probably going to be getting it when it does finally get announced because I've been a massive fan of those games. But, yeah, I feel like Battleborn surely will go down as one of those ones which was maybe like a bit of a side project. Randy Pitchford has come out, he's come out and said, we've tried so hard to try and move this forward, but it's just, we sort of made a bit of a dud game here. But I feel like, certainly with Borderlands, because they know what they're doing with Borderlands, and I feel like this was just a bit of a step in the wrong direction, and they're going to get back on track, hopefully.
Yeah.
But like, I think there is a potential for it to be really good because I know loads of people who love Borderlands and it's a fun game.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to compete with Destiny in that sort of area, Destiny is, we were saying before, or I think we said it before we started, like it's such an unbelievably fun game to play.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the story's not that good, but then like from what I played in Borderlands, it was
Story in Borderlands is pretty minimal as well, to be fair.
exactly. It's more about the gameplay and competing with the guys who made Halo, who are now making like the smoothest FPS I've really ever played.
But I just mean, if like they can learn the lessons that Destiny's come up with about some of that endgame content and raids and things like that,
Yeah.
and the fact that then they're not going to be beholden to the level of detail that Bungie puts into their worlds and weapons, like, could you end up just making a game that's like, well, it doesn't look quite as pretty as Destiny or feel quite as good, but it hits that loot shooter kind of like Skinner box, I just want to hit the button and get bigger numbers reflex, like, better. Because that's kind of what Borderlands is about as well. Borderlands is all about getting better guns, better loot, and it had, what was it, like the trailer for Borderlands 2, it's like we've got 1 billion guns or whatever. So could they learn lessons from Destiny and bring, I don't know, we are a bit off topic now, but I'm just kind of thinking like that could be a Borderlands in a post-Destiny world could be really interesting.
If anything, Borderlands must have been quite a bit of inspiration for Destiny, right? Because they are quite similar.
Yeah. I mean, when Destiny was announced, it was always like, oh, it's like a Halo Borderlands kind of thing. It was sort of the comparison that was made. I guess the thing about Borderlands is when you finish the story, it then says, hey, do you want to do it again?
Yeah.
But harder? Whereas in Destiny, you finish the story and it says, there's some other things to do. You finish the story quite quickly, and then it's like, well, there's still things going on here.
Yeah.
Do you want to check it out?
Hey, grind this stuff for loot.
Yeah. Starts, right?
What was that?
Yeah, you get the end game.
Yeah.
Like the story is, you don't even have all of your stuff until you finish the story. The game doesn't really start until you've done it. It's all just a tutorial, really.
Almost, yeah. Yeah.
And then you're doing raids and Crucible and all the quests and that stuff. Which I think, to be fair, is the most fun part of the game. The story's like a fun bit to play, but doing all that other stuff and like the flashpoints is definitely more fun.
Have you done the raid, Dylan?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I would very much like to. I'm getting close to the end of that game. That would be fun to do the raid.
I'm like 259, so I can't really yet. You have to be 260, I think.
228, and I haven't even finished the campaign yet.
Which is outrageous. That's just absurd.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's funny, isn't it? Because Gearbox, like when in the heat of Borderlands, Gearbox could just do no wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that like 2008, 2010 era, when they were just knocking game after game out of the park, and you were going, damn, Gearbox, you know what's going on. And then they were like, hey, look, we were the guys who put out Duke Nukem Forever after that wasn't made for 15 years. That's pretty funny. And everyone sort of laughed and said, well, I suppose you did the best with the pile of dog shit you were given there, guys. Well done. And then they did the Aliens Colonial Marines fiasco. And it was like, okay, maybe we can't give you this much slack. And then they put out Battleborn, and you go, oh, Gearbox, what happened to you?
Maybe they were lucky with Borderlands.
But I mean, do you guys feel that like if Battleborn was just on its day of release, if it was released as a free-to-play game and it was just put out there, do you think it would have been like performing better than it has done?
It probably would have stood a better chance, wouldn't it?
If it had been free-to-play and they hadn't, perhaps not out of choice, but they hadn't marketed it against Overwatch. Yeah, probably. I mean, I haven't played it. All I've seen is a lot of the style around it, which, I'm on record saying that I think a lot of that Gearbox writing is pretty weak, and I'm not a big fan of the way their characters are written or characterized. But why not? I mean, if they hadn't, I think they just got totally fucked by Overwatch.
Yeah, I think if Overwatch hadn't come out, it would have been like it would have done okay. I don't think it would have. So Overwatch changed the gaming sort of environment, right? Like it's made everything very different now. But I don't think Battleborn would have. But I think it would have done all right.
Yeah, I mean, in no means am I saying that it would have been, the record breaker that Overwatch is at the moment, because I don't think it would have gotten anywhere near the heights of Overwatch. But I certainly feel that, if they just came out and said, look, guys, we're working on a MOBA, it's going to be free to play with, in-game purchases, you can upgrade your stuff, whatever, buy new weapons and stuff, you can purchase out in-game currency, then, go out and play it, then I think it would have certainly done a lot better than it has been doing. And, it's been in a decline really ever since Overwatch got released, which is a bit of a letdown for Gearbox.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I find seems to be the shift now is that, so maybe back then it wasn't, but after seeing how like Titanfall's done, you can see that Battlefront is doing the same thing, right? Like Battlefront, they're doing free DLC. I think.
Oh, Battlefront has got all that loot box stuff that set the internet aflame, though, hasn't it?
Yeah.
All the blind boxes.
They're doing similar things in that you can pay for other stuff that you don't need, like in quotation marks. But
yeah, because I think all the stuff that actually makes you better at the game, they've come out and said, hold on, guys, we do have blind boxes, but the stuff that actually, like the star cards, whatever they are, that make you more powerful, you have to earn those. So it's not quite as insidious. But yeah, sorry. I just wanted to shit on Battlefront. You can
I think that seems to be the shift, right? Is that developers and the companies, the bigger companies like EA and stuff, they're seeing that maybe that's actually the better way to make money, because Titanfall wrecked it, and like they just got a shit. I don't think they would have got anywhere near as much if they'd been like, okay, we're going to do DLC and you buy it, because that ruined Titanfall 1. But then, with how they've done it now, the microtransactions, they earned just an insane amount. I can't remember what the stat was, but there's some absurd thing that they...
It was a lot, wasn't it?
Yeah, like it was more than...
Any game with microtransactions, you always hear people saying on like Reddit or on sort of forums and that, oh yeah, well I spent, $50 on trying to get this thing. It's like, well, that's a whole game. Like, that's another sale for that developer of a game. So I wouldn't be surprised if 95% of microtransaction money comes from people who spend more than a game's worth of money on it.
Oh yeah.
Because
they call them whales, don't they?
Yeah, I've never spent any money on microtransactions in a game. But I can imagine. I can't imagine only spending £10 or £15.
Yeah.
I imagine the kind of people who are going to spend any money are going to spend a lot of money.
Well, there was a brief moment where sorry, Dylan.
No, you go.
I was going to say, there was a brief moment where I almost spent, I think it was like 30 quid to get 50 loot boxes in Overwatch, because it was best value. Because
always have to go for best value.
Well, once you get past like level 8 in Overwatch, you level up so slowly that you only get a loot box like every 4 games. Even if you're getting play of the game and stuff, and you're really smashing it, you still only get a loot box like every 4 games. So then you either have to start playing their weird stuff in the arcade where you earn rewards for playing certain game types, or you just have to buy loot boxes if you want loot. And there was a brief moment where I was like, ooh, maybe I could get the best value. And I was like, no, this is a bad idea.
But that's how they get you, isn't it? They give you, they offer you like, oh yeah, you can buy this many like boxes for this amount, or you can buy so much more for less theoretically. But
that's such a good deal.
Yeah,
you could get one loot box for £10 or 1,000 for £20, and it's like it's still the same amount of money. It's just like they're not spending any more by giving you more loot boxes, right?
It's fake digital bullshit. It doesn't actually mean anything.
Yeah.
I bet there's some interesting game theory stuff about like, the optimum price and the optimum amount to sell. And
my understanding is apparently Blizzard have psychologists on staff.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that they can actually like do that kind of nasty psychology.
Yeah. Bungie have the same.
Yeah.
Which is apparently part of the reason why Destiny 1 was so addictive, is because they had people play it and then psychologists say, okay, well if you made this, they would never put the controller down.
Fuck.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Dylan? Did you say you spent some money on some microtransactions?
on Titanfall, I bought like the Prime Titan for the Titan.
See, that's so different to a loot box, though, isn't it? Because that's just going, I'm going to pay for this.
Because I figured, okay, I've played Titanfall a whole bunch, and I got it for like 50 quid, and I've got definitely more than 50 quid's worth of enjoyment out of it. and they've given us so much free shit. It's like, oh yeah, fair enough. I'll buy some loot stuff. I'll buy some microtransaction stuff.
But that's always the thing, isn't it? It's like Overwatch, to go sort of back to that, wouldn't have made the multi-billions of dollars, whatever it's made, on loot boxes if they had just said, you could buy loot boxes, but you could just buy the skins you want. Because then people just buy the skins they want. The reason people get into it is because it is functionally gambling, isn't it? It's you're putting in money for a chance to get the skin that you want.
Yeah. They've got so many more skins as well, though. So, like, the Titanfall skins is there's one different skin you could potentially get for your Titan, and it doesn't do anything. It just makes you look different. Whereas Overwatch is, there's, what, like 20, 30 skins per character, right?
No, it's like 10 to 12, depending on how popular the character is. But there are a bunch of cosmetics and other stuff per character. There are character-specific emblems and emotes and voice lines like things like that. But there's like 10 to 12 skins per character. Some of the more popular characters, like I think Tracer's got a few more and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And then you've got like the stickers, right? The things you can
sprays
while you're playing. The sprays, that's the one.
And like all of the emotes and stuff as well.
There are some great emotes, and like there are some awesome victory poses too. Like there is good stuff in that game for sure, but yeah, I don't know. Like, does Battleborn actually have blind boxes in it, Jack?
From what I can remember, I think it had like in-game currency. I'm pretty sure that was a thing, and I'm not sure if you could buy like loot boxes using that in-game currency, because that's a lot of that's what they do, isn't it? They tell you, oh yeah, you can buy like diamonds. You have to buy diamonds to purchase boxes or whatever. I feel like that's something that they certainly did. I'm not sure to the extent of what they did it. I'm not sure how many like skins or stuff that you could buy in that game, because like I say, I had stopped playing it quite a while ago, so my memory of that game is very vivid at best. But it certainly sounds like something that they would have looked to have done. You know, it certainly would have perhaps, boosted. You know, it's something that a lot of companies are doing and a lot of game developers are doing nowadays. So I wouldn't put it past them putting that into that game.
Well, yeah. Have you been keeping up? I mean, if we want to, let's use this Battleborn as a jumping off the bitch about loot boxes. Have you been keeping up with all this stuff about Shadow of War?
I've not. My brother went out and got the game, and he's spoken highly of it. I've not heard anything about them adding loot boxes, which would be a bit of a shame if they did.
They have. They've added in a lot of loot boxes, and it's so my understanding, the reason people are upset with it is there are loot boxes in which you can buy one type of loot box that gives you like new gear, so like swords and armor and stuff, and there's another type of loot box that gives you new like high level orcs to join your army.
New bros.
New bros. The bro system. What it looks like the stuff they've done with the Nemesis system in that game, and the way they've like fleshed out the orc army and stuff seems really, really interesting. But yeah, the way it works is you have this other type of loot box you can buy that gives you better orcs for your army, and so the reason people are up in arms is because basically you play through the entire story. And you get to the end of the story, and you've defeated the bad dudes, and you've got your massive empire or whatever, and you've spent the entire game taking over strongholds and attacking strongholds, and the game basically says, right, now you need to defend your strongholds from attacking armies for X, however long, till a bar fills up, or whatever the fuck. And then if you can get to that point, we'll give you the true ending of the game. What? But my understanding is, when you get to that point, it then becomes a really, really vicious grind. That if you just like did it and just grinded it out, it would take like another 20 hours or something of just doing fortress defense and just slowly beefing up your army of dudes. Or you can then just go and spend like another 25 quid and get a bunch of high level orcs and just do it immediately.
Yeah.
And so everyone's losing their shit completely. I would perhaps even argue rightfully so, because it seems kind of insidious in its own way.
Yeah. Well, they had that whole palaver when they made the charity DLC for the developer who died, right? And there was the whole, none of the money actually goes to charity if you buy it outside of the US or in certain states.
Yeah, it was like only in 4 states did any of the money actually go to the developer, and everywhere else, or go to the developer's family or the charity, whatever it was, and everywhere else it just went to Warner Bros.
Yeah. So now
does
they've
seem
made it
kind
just
of-
completely free, right? And they're donating the money instead. But
Yes.
It does seem kind of odd for something that, like, you know, I wouldn't have associated that with being in Shadow of War.
Yeah, loot boxes. There's like tiers of gear now. You can get like rare and legendary gear or whatever. Tom, you should play it.
Oh, man. There's actually one thing I don't like about Destiny, is those tiers of gear rarity.
I love it because when I get a
It's so
purple
good when
engram,
you get an exotic engram.
yeah,
What's
it's
that?
like when you play in Diablo and you get a glowy gets dropped and it's really
Yeah.
really glowy and you're like, oh yeah, give me that.
But my issue is that the end game of wearing gear is to have all legendaries. So it ends up not even being a rarity. It's just sort of stage of the game. Like,
Yeah.
at this point, I don't see any greens or whites anymore. Just blues, which I immediately get rid of, and purples and exotics. Exotic is the only one that tier system makes sense for.
Because you can
Yeah,
only
because
wear
you
a
can only
certain
have
amount of
so many,
those.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are actually rare to get. Yeah,
Man.
ran over.
It's still nice. That's part of that psychology, I guess, isn't it? It's like, oh, look at this legendary item I keep getting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, when a purple engram drops, I get really excited.
And because you have to go get it encrypted, you don't find out.
Yeah.
Unencrypted, rather. You don't find out straight away. It's just, exciting.
Yeah. Man, you used to have to get all your engrams decrypted.
That sounds
Yeah.
tedious.
Yep. It was. It was awesome that you'd roll up with a stack of like 15 engrams, like all your blues, and some blues would turn into purples. And you just keep clicking cross and just get loads and loads of loot at once that you already had. Damn, I'm really a sucker, aren't I?
Yeah, the more and more I hear about Destiny 1, the more I'm like, man, I wish someone could write a book that was the story of Destiny 1, from the beginning of that universe all the way through to the end of Destiny 1, and it was like 1,000 pages long, and then I didn't have to pay through that game in any way.
Mate, you should pick it up. It's pretty good.
Pick up the complete collection. Are the servers
Yeah.
still up?
Yeah. It's all still going.
Do people still play it, even though
Yeah.
Destiny 2's out?
Yeah, some people still play it. Some people have said that they don't like the way Destiny 2 is right now. They've got some specific issues with it, and they've just been playing Destiny 1 because it's way less stressful for them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's do it. Let's play loads of Destiny 1.
And yeah, also because, like, the way Destiny 2's just started, and so there's like 5 or 6 strikes, there's some things, there's not, like, Destiny 1 is really piled up with stuff now.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of its life cycle, you can just do so much stuff. Like, I can
think
go
the
to
one-
Earth, the Moon, Venus, Mars, Dreadnought, the Badlands.
Yeah.
Like,
The one thing that really put me off about Destiny, like, I had the Destiny game, like the base copy of it when it got released, and I was like, oh yeah, this looks cool.
Yeah.
And I bought it, and then they went on, and then when they started doing the releases of like, oh yeah, you have to do the Taken King, you have to pay another 40 quid for it, and stuff like that. I was like, is it really? Like, why can't you just have it as like a season pass, and then that would have been okay, I guess.
well, they had
do a season pass.
2 DLCs that came with a season pass on release, and then the Taken King was, like, bigger, so they were like, yeah, it's going to be a standalone thing.
Yeah, I just didn't understand. Like, for me, I just didn't understand. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but yeah.
Because, Jack, you have to buy the game over and over again, otherwise how are they going to make any money?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like that Destiny 1 collection, like the Ultimate Collection, or whatever it's called, is certainly something that I've been looking forward to, like, getting, because then I am a
That
fan
is
of
best
Destiny,
value.
I just haven't played it. Yeah, it is best value as well, yeah.
Although
Yeah.
you say that, but like, there's so many parts of that Destiny DLC was like, it changes what sort of events occur just as you're walking around. So, yeah, you can do all the missions and stuff at the end if you get the complete edition, but you can't do a lot of the game stuff that was happening just like in world.
Yeah, that was only a small part, really. Was like the Dark Below had the knight with the sword running around, and then House of Wolves had the Fallen that would just jump in, and I can't remember what they did. They did take those out, but the Taken ones still are there, and I don't think there was one for the last DLC. But yeah, I get exactly what you mean, but actually, you wouldn't miss it. You wouldn't even know that it wasn't there anymore if you hadn't played it.
Yeah, it's not like it's not missing content, it's just like a bit of experience, I guess.
Yeah, it was like when the DLCs came out sort of in the week before, they'd sort of do these like live events in the world that were sort of like hyping up and reminding casuals that there was a DLC coming out.
Fucking casuals.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having to spend all my money on Destiny DLCs. Because now I'm addicted. Now I'm in there. I've been suckered in.
You can't not now. You have to. There's literally no other choice.
But my brother bought me the game, so I don't
That's
have to
sweet of
worry too
him.
much. It was my birthday present.
What? Wait. Oh yeah. No, because your birthday. Is it not your birthday for a couple of months? That was early. Was it so you'd play with him?
Yeah.
There you go.
Smart, right?
Thought we'd work that out.
Anyway, we might as well get more experience out of it.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
makes sense.
I mean,
makes
you
sense.
like all of your formative memories with your brother were playing the last Bungie game, right?
Yeah, basically.
There we go.
Just playing a lot of Halo marathons.
Oh yeah. Oh man, see, this is it, right? This is the problem with Battleborn. It's such a nothing game that it's hard to talk about it for longer than about 10 minutes.
Yeah, no,
like-
I mean, it's good that we're having like discussions off of it though.
Yeah,
because,
definitely.
We're talking about other things that have done what Battleborn tried to do, just doing it better, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, although
that's a good point, Jack. That's a good point.
Destiny isn't ostensibly, it's not obviously it's not a MOBA, it's nothing like Battleborn, but the little things that it does is stuff that Battleborn perhaps could have done better.
Lessons could have been learned.
though that the lessons that they're going to learn from Battleborn, they're going to make Borderlands 3, and it's going to be, hey, now when you're walking around Firestone or this valley or whatever, you're going to see other players, other randomers, and you can do, they're going to do the Destiny pitch again. They're going to do the
We'll have public
shared
events.
world, first-person thing. I can imagine that happening for
Yeah.
Borderlands 3.
Which is just boring now, right? Someone's done it. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, remember when Destiny came out, or the first one was coming out, and their big spiel was like, oh, every gun's going to tell a story. And every time you see someone with a gun, you'll be like, oh, dude, how did you get that sick gun? Tell me about your awesome gun. And then everyone just used the fucking Galahorn, or whatever it was, and no one cared. And it's the same in, like, my understanding of the meta in Destiny 2 is that everyone just uses, like, the Midas multi-tool or whatever. So, like, the guns don't actually really tell a story because all the best loot has already been found. But because of Borderlands does its crazy random generation like weapon proc stuff, like Tom, you still tell me the story about Borderlands 1 and that super OP submachine gun you got.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Basically, it was like because they're all built, all their weapons are built from like archetypes. Like, okay, it's an SMG and it's going to be this type, which means it's this, and then it's going to be this set, and it's going to have this stock and this barrel and this sight and that. And I got an SMG in Firestone that was like a white rarity, like the most common one you could have. But it was one that fired 4 shots every time you pulled, or like on every shot, it would fire 4 bullets. But then each of those bullets did 4 times damage. And I kept that SMG until the final boss. Because when I got it, you'd tap the trigger, and 1 shot would kill any enemy. And you know how in Borderlands, yeah, it was. You know how in Borderlands, like, as you get better, like, the gun that's been serving you really well the past couple of hours of gameplay suddenly starts to become lackluster.
Crap.
Yeah. Well, this one started off so powerful that it was only by, like, Old Haven that I started to struggle with it. And yeah, I had that SMG on me that I got in Firestone on the final boss. It was ridiculous. Had like
So
a
that's the
magazine
kind
of
of
like
thing that-
144 as well. So even though it was firing 4 shots at a time, it wasn't like a reload fest. It was, honestly, it was the
So that's the
perfect
kind
storm.
of thing that can fulfill that Destiny promise of like every gun has a story. Like
But then,
if Borderlands
if you
could
jump
do
into the
that kind of thing.
Crucible, if you jump into the Crucible and someone's just got this gun that completely wrecks,
But also, like, I guess you couldn't make Borderlands competitive, could you? For the
No.
same reason.
No.
no. And I think, to be honest, they've struggled to make Destiny competitive. Like, it's caused several issues. Like, you're a hunter, Mark, aren't you?
Yeah.
When they offered you your first exotic armor, did you notice that there was one that will give you slightly high reload on sidearms?
No.
Like, that's a crap exotic to have. Like, it will make your sidearms reload quicker. That's rubbish. But in Destiny 1, they had such powerful exotics that they had to keep nerfing them and removing them because they were just screwing with the multiplayer so much. Because, like you say, everyone was using, you use this primary, this special, and this heavy, and this exotic is the best. Like, just dismantle your symbiote or whatever, because it's not even worth having. So
yeah, I'm not hugely taken by the Crucible. Anyway, it's I don't know.
Hard. It's tough.
I found it really, really hard. And the last game I played, got a 4 kill in one round and thought that maybe I'm actually the best. And then I died the next 4 rounds in a row immediately and haven't played it since.
Yeah. Like I think Borderlands would struggle to introduce a competitive element. I think it would really struggle. I mean, the closest they've done is those arenas where you can duel.
Yes, the dueling arenas.
But even then, they're sort
silly,
of
though.
Yeah, exactly. They're not meant to be taken seriously. You don't get like it's just for bragging rights, really, isn't it? It's not actually. It's just sort of you're dicking about with your friend, and you say, "Hey, Mark, I bet I can cap your ass."
Yeah, and again, they're for showing off, and you're like, "Hey, look, I got this ridiculous random drop that's a rocket launcher that fires 4 shots that are actually rocket launchers that also fire 4 shots." And you go, "Yeah, okay, that's cool," because you pull the trigger once and the entire arena explodes, and you go, "Yeah, that was a cool thing that I did." I do see what you mean. I wonder.
But originally Destiny was never meant to be... When they first put out Destiny, they didn't really care that much about the multiplayer, did they? It was all about the shared world.
Yeah.
And then slowly they just started caring more and more about the balance of the multiplayer, and I think that kind of...
Yeah, like people really liked Iron Banner, and so they made changes that sort of, they were like, hey, this class is just, like, Titans just outmatch Hunters at every corner. And then they introduced Trials of Osiris, which I never played because it was basically like super competitive, super sweaty. Like you've got to win 9 games in a row without losing a single one. Yeah. And at that point, everyone just the balance had to be so fine tuned that I think it just sucked the fun out of. Like you were saying, Mark, it would be fun to just run around with a shotgun, pumping slugs into weak enemies in the single player or the versus AI version, but because people were doing the exact same thing in the Crucible, now they have to be a sort of rare ammo weapon. Shotguns.
Yeah, making shotguns all shotguns power weapons has really broken my heart because some of those shotguns are a lot of fun to use, but I only ever feel good using them against elite mobs.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, you can't really use it against a boss because a boss, if you get close to them, is just going to stomp you. It makes me sad too. Like sniper rifles as well. I haven't really seen sniper rifles being used because
they're rubbish.
Yeah, you'd just say, well, I'll have a rocket launcher instead because I can.
I only equip sniper rifles just to have a higher power level.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I did get a pretty good.
Always useless.
Oh, sorry, Dylan.
I've found that they're almost always useless. Like fusion rifles do the same thing, but are a bit better.
Yeah.
So they just they've done weird stuff with the.
Well, it's
how have we ended up talking about Destiny?
Because we were talking about how Borderlands 3 might try and imitate Destiny off the heels of Battleborn.
Might learn lesson, and obviously, it's just that sort of Gearbox. They're in the business of loot shooters.
Yeah.
And so a conversation about Gearbox, especially considering most of us are currently actually playing Destiny 2. It's
inevitable.
Who remembers? Are any of you aware that Gearbox actually made 2 Half-Life games?
No.
Yeah, some of Gearbox. I might in fact be some of Gearbox's first games. They made the 2 expansions for Half-Life 1. They made Opposing Force and Blue Shift back in the day.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Gearbox actually made Half-Life games, and now look at them.
Yeah, but I mean, Valve actually made Half-Life games.
Oh man, that hurts. Yeah, the first games Gearbox made were the 2 Half-Life expansions.
See, because when you said 2 Half-Life expansions, I thought you were going to say episode 1 and episode 2. I was like,
Yeah,
wait,
exactly what I
what?
thought.
Nah, they made Opposing Force and Blue Shift, which are the Half-Life 1 expansions, where you don't play as Gordon Freeman.
Oh.
Yeah, man. Gearbox. And then I just still can't believe they put out Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah.
They were the guys who put out the Duke Nukem game. What a bizarre thing. I think I have that Duke. I do have that Duke Nukem game. I just looked at my Steam list.
Man.
I've never actually, I've seen bits of it, and you always hear about it, because it's just one of those things that Reddit likes talking about, right?
It's a good example of, stirring too much and just sort of coming out with a watery pulp than a juicy sauce. If that analogy makes any sense.
No idea what you mean.
You know, they worked on it for so long, I don't think they even really had a game at the end. They just had something that went on a disc and moved around with a controller.
My understanding is, because obviously, because Duke Nukem 3D was, though perhaps now only remembered for its rampant misogyny, a pretty revolutionary game in the way that it let you, interact with the environment. No video game before let you walk in, move through a fully 3D environment and use the toilet. That was revolutionary. But obviously 3D Realms then sort of got so caught up in their own hype. And my understanding is, every couple of years, much like with when John Romero was putting out Daikatana, they'd just do an engine overhaul or a story overhaul and be like, no, we have to keep up with the best thing of the day. So it would go from late 90s crazy fucking Parsi Quake style shooter, and apparently it went through all these bizarre revisions where at some point it was a super serious Call of Duty style war shooter and all this other stuff, because they just kept trying to keep up with what was current instead of just finishing the fucking game, which is why the game that Gearbox finally put out when they bought the rights and said, yeah, we're going to put Duke Nukem out, was such a disjointed mess of ideas.
I mean, at least they were trying to do what the public wanted, but I guess that's not always what you should do.
Yeah, I mean, that was 3D Realms' mistake. They're no longer a company. I think they might still be a company. I think maybe they put out a trailer for a game a few years ago that they never made. Sounds like something that 3D Realms would do. That sounds like what they've been doing for literally 2 decades at this point.
They've still got a website.
Wow. Weird.
And the top post is Happy Birthday Wolfenstein 3D from May. So they don't do much.
Oh, man. Poor old...
Do you reckon it's just one guy knocking about a studio like a custodian, swooping up and putting out anniversary
in the evenings,
blog updates, yeah.
Just occasionally finding something maybe people will like this.
So,
Yeah.
hey guys, remember when you could use the light switches in Duke Nukem? That was cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Light switches are alright, mate.
They put out a game in December, apparently.
What?
Called Rad Rogers World 1 version 1.0.
Wow.
December of what year?
Last year.
What?
Yeah.
What was it called? Rad Rogers?
Rad Rogers, yeah. And THQ acquired it. So, THQ shut down this year, right?
Shut down last year, I think.
Apparently they bought it this year. In April, they acquired Rad Rogers. But
THQ Nordic.
Shut.
So basically, THQ shut a couple of years ago, and all of their IP, or most of their IP, which wasn't bought by Deep Silver, was bought by a company called Nordic Games, that this year changed their name to THQ Nordic, and I imagine next year they'll just change their name to THQ.
Yeah.
The toy headquarters.
Well, they're gonna be putting out a game called Rad Rogers.
Brilliant.
Like rad as in radical. Radical Rogers.
I guess.
Man.
This sounds like some kind of weird skateboarding butt sex game, right?
Yeah, okay, if you say so.
That's absolutely disgusting, Dylan. That's terrible. Why would you say that?
The worst part is the main character is a child, and now I feel disgusting.
You should feel terrible. In Duke Nukem Forever, you could use the toilet and then fish your poo out of the toilet and throw it at people.
Wait, are you saying this is the bad one?
Yeah, that's the bad one.
What?
And while he walks around with a fucking hot handful of action, Duke would be like, "Oh, why am I doing this? Oh, this is disgusting."
That's
Do
pretty
it.
funny.
And then you
That
could.
sounds like a top quality game, and I feel like everyone else must be lying.
There's a bit in
to
it.
hide the gold.
There's a bit in it where you leave a building and you see a bunch of guys outside, like police officers, and in the back of their truck, they've got some guns that you can take, and they've also got some power armor that looks almost exactly like the Mjolnir armor from Halo. And if you walk up to it and like interact with it, Duke's like, "Oh, power armor's for a bunch of pussies," or something like that. So it's real hot button commentary there in 2011, taking the mick out of Halo.
Yeah, mate. Better sort of put them down while they're still a fledgling title, right?
I imagine when they wrote that joke, they were.
They were still on Mac. It's still been announced for Mac.
It's still actually an RTS.
Yeah, it's a reference to this weird RTS that Steve Jobs was keen on.
Oh man.
I mean, at least the joke somewhat aged well, because it's
On to Duke Nukem.
still relevant.
Yeah. Imagine if Halo had then just not. Well, I suppose at that point they would have just cut the line from the game.
Yeah, but if they just missed it, just in the middle of this game, you walk up to some weird-looking power armor that doesn't fit with the rest of the game, and your character just goes, "Oh, that's for pussies." And it's like, what?
Yeah. Are they talking about like Fallout or something?
Huh?
Like, are they talking about Fallout?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Just with really, different-looking armor, I guess.
Did any of you play, just to sort of keep the Gearbox chat going, did any of you play Aliens Colonial Marines?
No, I was really hyped for it though, back in about 2007, I guess, maybe.
Oh, when they put out all of those, it was
When it was coming out later next year.
Yeah, and it looked wicked.
Yeah.
Mm.
To be fair, the year before it came out, it looked wicked. That was got in all that trouble, didn't it? Because it had all those trailers which didn't look anything like the game, but looked sick.
Yeah. Didn't it actually look kind of like a PlayStation 2 original Xbox game? From what screenshots I saw of it, it looked really, really ugly.
Because that was the thing they got in trouble with, is that epic trailer they put out had a bunch of extra effects and other stuff in it that the game just didn't have in. So when they're walking through the connection tunnel between their ship and the Sulaco and things like that, there are all these god rays and particle effects and ocular lighting and all this other stuff that looked really, really sweet, but just wasn't in the game at all.
It just seems like a silly thing to do, right? Because people are gonna see that you don't have that eventually.
Yeah, well then Sony decided that a couple of years later, Sony, to stick it to everyone, did their big masturbatory E3 press conference that was just an hour of orchestral music and the screen saying "captured in engine."
Yeah. I mean, that's just what they seem to do all the time now, right?
Yeah, that was such a good press conference, though. Everything was captured in engine. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you realised it was in-game footage.
How would I have been able to tell?
If it was all captured in engine, how did they put the words captured in engine over the
Yeah.
The engine doesn't account for that.
Oh, God. That's a paradox. I don't know who to trust. Yeah.
Wow.
I think, because I remember as well, I have that Aliens game, also, because apparently I just own a bunch of shit video games. And I've actually played a bit of it, and it's not very good, for a start. But also, it goes in retcons a bunch of shit about aliens in it as well, and it doesn't. Spoilers for Aliens, by the way, but spoilers for Alien 3, I guess. it undoes the death of like Hicks and Newt.
Hmm.
So at the beginning of Alien 3, Hicks and Newt, characters from Aliens, die off screen in a spaceship crash. So you
Yeah.
know they're treated with loads of respect. Because I think my understanding is Michael Biehn just didn't want to come back for another film. But yeah, and then in Aliens Colonial Marines, they're like, oh, they're not really dead, they're just hanging out on this spaceship. That's my understanding. I think that's like one of the late game reveals, is just Hicks comes back. Which I don't know how I feel about that. Again, Gearbox, what are they playing at?
I guess like if it was a good and well received game, then it might be okay. But the fact that it happened in just like a piece of shit, it annoys people, right?
Even then, I feel like Aliens as a film is always going to carry much more respect, and even to a lesser extent, Alien 3 is going to be more favoured than a game that gets put out.
Yeah, but you know, I think the shift is happening that games are considered a lot more. There are definitely games that have better commentary on things than a lot of movies that get put out nowadays. So I think
Roger Ebert died, and now everyone thinks games are art.
yeah,
That was always his thing, wasn't it? He was pretty adamant that video games could never be art.
yeah, he loved his films. Right? Well, he didn't love films. He seemingly hated them.
And look who's dead. Not video games.
Mate, if we'd shown him Battleborn, though, he would have changed his tune.
Tasteless, I'm sorry. Yeah, we'd shown Roger Ebert. How many stars do you think Roger Ebert would have given Battleborn?
0.
Called it total shit.
The film is actually just a video of one of us playing Battleborn, and then we show it to him. He's like, "So what do you think?" It was awful. There's nothing to this. Or it would have been a critical masterpiece because, you know, we're saying
Art piece.
Some really avant-garde shit.
Yeah.
If we'd done it in black and white and given it German subtitles.
Yeah.
But had Dylan in a dress that is visibly red playing it.
Yes, there we go. There's definitely you could say something there about something.
See, games are the future of film. Films of people playing games. Where we're going.
Oh man, old Battleborn. The game, not so bad that we talk about how bad it is, and not so good we talk about how good it is. The game that is so bland that you can't talk about it for more than about 4 minutes talking about other video games. And that seems to be its biggest crime, like not being good enough to hold its own and not being obnoxious enough to even really get anyone angry. Because also, like, it can't have been bad, right? Because it wasn't. It was this year after it had been out for like 18 months or whatever that they said, yeah we're now going to stop supporting it. So for them to have kept supporting it with a live team for 18 months, it must have had something going on.
Yeah. And
Right?
I guess, like, none of us have ever really played it right. So, like, Jack, you said you gave up really quick.
Yeah.
So,
I watched Jack play it a fair amount when he was playing it and thought it looked middling at best.
yeah.
I guess.
Like, nowadays, at least, maybe it might have had some changes that made it a bit nicer. And I heard that when it came free to play, it actually had quite a revival.
Yeah.
So, like,
Good
maybe
for
it was
them.
actually alright, but I guess none of us can really comment either way because...
We'll never
Jack
know.
can, but...
I feel like, going back to that point, if they would have released it as a free-to-play game at the start when it got announced and they dropped it as like, yeah, here's a free-to-play game, go out and play it, and it's a MOBA, you know, we're going to come in with this sort of art style, the same people who worked on Borderlands, blah, 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 then it might have been received a lot better. But I feel like, you know, making people pay money for that game to get just the initial game for it was maybe a bit of wrongdoing on Gearbox's part.
Yeah, definitely. I think they made the wrong move, and they eventually became aware of that, I guess. But it's a shame that it destroyed it, because like, I've heard people say that had it not been an Overwatch computer, it would have been a perfectly adequate game. Not like great or anything, but
Yeah, maybe if
I think it had an audience, didn't it?
if it had come out the year before Overwatch, maybe it would have been like it probably would have still been received like with mixed reviews or whatever, but maybe Overwatch would have been like, hey, it's like Battleborn, but it really improves on some stuff rather than it's just the better one. It's the obvious choice kind of thing.
I guess for me, it's just like the stuff. Like I think there's what Jack pointed out about some of that online stuff, and I remember that being pointed out a lot when it came out as well. Is that online stuff where even if you played a single player game, you had to be connected to one of their servers, and weird and stuff like that, and like how you could play a single player game, but the AI on your side was a bit ropey and just little bits and pieces that seemed rough around the edges, and then also just their post release sort of support for it. And I think I found, as I mentioned, I found a lot of Randy Pitchford's spiel around it to be quite distasteful and just a bit like pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it failed on a fair few fronts.
Yeah.
It seems.
But we also don't seem to think that it's worthy of, like, hey, like, this was overlooked, but you should actually go and check it out.
No,
It just seems like it would have been alright.
I certainly feel like now that it's free, like if you want to have a look at it, then you can, without having to like take that damage of spending whatever.
I suppose that.
If you see it and you're like, actually, this is free to play. It's a MOBA. It's just one of these games. Let's give it a try. Then
probably actually a decent free to play game, right?
Yeah. I imagine it is. I imagine it very much is. But like again, it just goes back to that point with the market is so heavily dominated now by Overwatch. It's just I don't know. I feel like
PUBG. PUBG's shitting all over Overwatch.
Yeah. Well.
Have you seen? Sorry.
Well, is it currently the big thing?
What, PUBG?
I know that it's the big thing, but is it like actually doing better than Overwatch at the moment?
I think I'm not entirely certain, but I do know that not only did it break the as up until now highest ever concurrent players on Steam, it's now more than doubled it.
Fucking hell.
It's like up until PUBG came out, most concurrent players was like 1.1 million people playing Dota, and that was in all of Steam. And now I think PUBG sits comfortably at like 2.5 million or something shocking like that. Hang on, let's see if I can get the metrics up.
Like Fortnite released their sort of version of it, didn't they? Their Fortnite Battle Royale that got released like last week.
They did.
It's like a free to play version of it, and I've seen good things from it. I haven't played it, but it looks good.
You say free to play, only the beta's free to play. They are eventually going to be going as a paid release.
No, I believe it's the other way around. I believe it's the game is free to play, but you pay to get early access.
Okay, yeah.
And it's I believe it's that way around.
Which when I saw the trailer for that, I thought looked pretty cool.
I think Fortnite looks like a really cool game. I think their Battle Royale mode, however successful it is for them, considering they're the people who've licensed the engine to Bluehole, is kind of a shitty cash grab when their game's not even finished, and they're going, actually, we're going to put out this free-to-play version of this thing instead. Yeah, so current players right now for PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is 1.7 million. The peak today was 2.3 million.
Fucking hell.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
My word.
It's nuts, man. It is a popular game. To be fair, it's really fun. But Overwatch is the point we were trying to talk about. Overwatch is still huge, right? Like the competitive meta in Overwatch is still thriving, is my understanding.
Yeah. It's one of those games that you can just play for a long, and they keep putting stuff out, and it's got a pretty good esports background to it.
They just put out a Halloween pack, didn't they? With like a bunch of new Halloween skins, because everyone's losing their shit about like Symmetra being a sexy demon, like a dragon lady or something.
Yeah,
What's going
clearly
on?
Overwatch won that fight.
Yeah, hang on. Private browsing. Let's find that comment Randy Pitchford made on his Twitter about how hyped he was. There was Battleborn pornography. I want to see if I can find it, because it was so hilarious. Yeah, so he tweeted afterwards saying, very not safe for work, but I have received reports that Battleborn Rule 34 is now a thing on Reddit, link with caution, and then linked to r/Battleborn Rule 34, which now, to its credit, does appear to be full of Battleborn characters. It's not a very popular subreddit.
3 users here right now, 482 readers overall.
Dylan, are two of the users me and you?
Yeah, probably.
That's pretty shameful.
The latest post on it was a month ago, so I have a feeling it might be dead.
482 subs though. And hey, you know, at least
Battleborn porn.
I remember when Randy Pitchford hyped that and sort of pimped it out, it was then just full of Overwatch like stuff. So at least the Battleborn pornographers have finally got their safe spot, right?
Yeah. They need a safe space.
Nowhere else on the internet will accept them. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely one of those ones where Gearbox really, really needs to sort their shit out. Like to come back from what's been a weak string of games, and like Battleborn again. I think Battleborn probably actually out of the three, Duke Nukem Forever and Aliens and Battleborn is clearly the least obnoxious one out of all of them. Like hands
100%,
down.
yeah.
Like it seems to be the one that's most competently a video game, but like they need to they need a hit, don't they?
Yeah, it certainly does make you wonder that if did they ever have plans for it to be a sort of esport? Because Overwatch is done successfully with it. Whether or not they had plans in the pipeline for if this thing really kicks off, we can make it into a competitive online multiplayer and get really people really hyped into it. Try and go down the same route as Dota and stuff. But it makes you think if they did they actually have plans for that? I'm not sure. I don't think they would have done. But certainly after it sort of started its decline, they probably was like, well, we're not ever going to get this to market. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. Let's see if we could look into development and see somewhere where they say if it was pitched to be like an esports kind of game.
It must have been, right, because it was coming out at that time. It was coming out at the everything's an esport game time.
Yeah, everything is esports.
Because it's just where the money is, right? You can make a ton of money from people just watching your game.
I suppose having tens of thousands of people watching your game also is just free advertising, isn't it? Twitch streamers are just a free advert for you.
Yeah, I mean, look at Dota, right? Look at the international and that money-making scheme that is.
Yeah, bloody hell. Why could we not be good at video games, guys?
Hey, I'm getting pretty good at Destiny.
I've heard.
I'm getting up there.
You got to go pro.
Yeah, I'm gonna go, mate. No.
Pro Crucible.
Like I said, Crucible's hard, man.
Yeah, I don't know if I like it.
Oh, I love it. I play it with my brother, and Crucible's pretty fun.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be better to play with someone.
Definitely, 100%. I don't think I'd enjoy it if I played it alone.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm on the return to. I'm at the bit where once you go around all the planets, then you come back to the EDZ. I'm at that, Tom. So I'm getting close to the end. So once I hit the end game, we'll start doing shit together.
Mate, let's do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we may have exhausted what we can about Borderlands and Battleborn and Overwatch and Gearbox
and Randy Pitchford.
And loot boxes and how Randy Pitchford's just kind of a sad, pathetic husk of a man.
We've been going for a good hour though. I feel like that's a good place to
have
a
conversation on Battleborn.
It's a longer conversation than we ever got to have on our previous show.
Yeah.
True. We haven't had to cut for music. We haven't had to have a Beyonce interlude.
The Beyonce load. So yeah, I mean, I guess closing. Has anybody got any closing statements about Battleborn or about blind boxes, I suppose, or free to play games, or any of the various topics we've sort of covered?
So I'd just say I only discovered about an hour and 5 minutes ago that it is free to play, and before that I had no interest in getting it. I didn't even remember it existed.
Yeah.
But now that I've heard that, there's probably a 50% chance that I'll try and get it. But no promise. I'm still not ever going to pay any money into it. I might just play it sometimes.
I feel like it's going to be one of those ones where it's like people will download it, play it for a bit, and be like, this was an okay game. If it was free when it got released at the start, it probably would have done better. But, there's not too much hype about it at the moment, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame. It's sad when these things happen for companies, because obviously effort went into it.
Yeah.
It's not like it was just some slapdash job, but it just didn't take off. But I guess this has to happen sometimes.
Yeah, totally. I think this works as a format, you know.
It got us talking about a lot.
Yeah, someone brings in a game and we use that as a sort of jumping off point. It's very much a show and tell.
Well, in that one person's really passionate about something and the rest of the class doesn't care and talks about other things.
If you think I was passionate about Battleborn, you're mistaken.
I'm going to come in hot with some Titanfall passion at some point.
I'm excited.
I think I've actually already worked out when it's my turn, what my game's going to be.
So it'll be my turn next week, I believe. If we follow
Tom, right?
alphabeticals. Yeah, then it'll be Tom. So anybody got any other closing statements? Anything they want to plug? Jack, I'm sure you want to plug some things.
My YouTube channel, go subscribe.
Cracker Jack.
God damn it, Jack.
You want to be Cracker Jack's best video?
I like how you didn't even say your YouTube channel name. Yeah,
no.
Someone else had you.
Well, that would just be gauche if Jack said it.
Look how successful I am. My friends tell me.
Exactly.
So I think to get this on iTunes, we need a podcast hosting and also somewhere to put it. So I'm going to end up making a WordPress and putting this on SoundCloud to get it on iTunes. So if this is on iTunes, go look at Cracker Jack on YouTube or Low Expectations Media on YouTube, where this will also be. If this is on YouTube, go look at the SoundCloud or WordPress or iTunes RSS that gets you to this too, I guess, is how this is going to work.
We'll put a link underneath.
Yeah, there'll be some cross-promotion. I know. Yeah. I think this was successful. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to have a good name for it. I might just call it... I don't know. I'll work something out.
Battleborn.
Randy Pitchford's rock hard Battleborn.
More like BattleYAWN.
There it is.
Took me too long to get.
Well, excellent. Okay, gents. This has been fun. If we stop recording, we could probably talk for a little bit after as well if you guys want to.
Yeah. I just want to say hi to Matt and Ollie, who are probably listening.
The only Matt, Ollie, and maybe one of Jack's subscribers. Fuck yeah. Hi guys. Right. Sweet. Call it a show.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.